It is Aftershocks right here on Aftershocks TV on Heavy Metal Television. And joining us today to talk about their great, and I do mean great, self-titled release are amazingly all four guys from the Lucid. We, of course, have Drew Fortier, we have David Ellefson, we have Mike Heller, and, of course, Mr. Vinnie Dombroski, the coolest guy in rock, all to talk about the Lucid. So what is up, gentlemen?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be seen, man. And it's great to talk to you guys about this record. Drew turned me on to this, I don't know, what, Drew, about 8 months ago, I guess.
Yeah, maybe even probably closer to like a year ago. Yeah, this has been going for a minute.
So from the background, it has been really kind of fun to watch this thing develop and twist and turn as it has. So, you know, let's start off a little bit with just kind of some basic history of how this band came together, because really it doesn't seem like, it seems like all of your paths may have crossed here and there, but it doesn't seem like, from an outsider, like it's the kind of a band where all of you guys would have crossed in a way that would become creative. So I'll leave that to whoever decides they are the leader here, and you know, to maybe just talk about how the band came together.
This is our first band meeting we've had in a while. It's good to see you, gentlemen.
Yes.
We'll go down the agenda. Now, it's funny that actually where Mike's at in his studio in LA was the last time all four of us were together. I was there cutting bass tracks. We knocked them out in a couple of days. Vin flew out from Detroit and brought sandwiches and drinks, and he was like the host with the most.
Amazing. And I tell everybody too that was like the most unfront man thing I've ever seen, and we just instantly fell in love with him, because any front man ever would never even do that. He'd be the one you need to bring sandwiches to. And we have Vinnie here, the Don of Detroit, bringing us sandwiches.
Yeah, lead singers don't generally show up serving the band.
I'm going for
He's hired on the spot. Yeah. And Mike was, it's where we cut bass and drums there. And it was interesting that, we don't think of this as a pandemic record, but it kind of started in the pandemic, around April, May, June-ish, something like that. I forgot when it was. Drew just sent me a track. He said, "Hey, you want to play bass on something?" And I said, "Sure." And I put bass down on Hair, right? Wasn't that the first? Yep. That was like the first track I think we all worked on, right? Was Hair. And I said, "That was fun. That was cool. I didn't expect that." And he said, "We want to play in some more?" I said, "Sure." And he sent me over 13 more songs, immediately, or however many it was. I said, "Oh, that many songs. Okay." So that was where it started. And Mike, being the neurotic producer that he is, he just said, okay, if we're going to get real, we got to get in a room. And thank God he did, because it took it to a whole other level. And it was really fun. I met Mike. He came through Phoenix here with Raven, and we hung out a little bit, and that was nice. And I guess we probably met before that, of course, but it was kind of a fun hang, and it was fun to get in the room and for all four of us to be there, and it was nice to be. I hate phoning records in over the internet, man. It was nice. Drew was there, because there's little nuance moments that are just nice when you're in the room with each other, with the guitars, and little bends and little musical nuances that are cool. That there's conversations that happen, musical conversations that wouldn't happen over the internet. So it was nice for the four of us to be in the room. And I remember we had a rough mix of Maggot Wind, right? Isn't that what it was? We had a rough mix. We had it all teed up for Vin, I hope this wins him over. So he walked in, we hit play, and it was pretty dramatic. It was just a rough, and it was pretty awesome. Lasse had mixed it over in Germany for us, sent it back, and it was good. We're all fans of each other's work, and so it was just a pretty cool moment. So that's the story I'm sticking with. So, I don't know how you guys remember it happening, but that's what I remember.
Well, it depends how far back you want to go, because with me and Mike, we have this other thing going on, and the music, the Hair, was actually kind of like a leftover demo from that. And it'd actually be interesting to hear Mike kind of tell that story too, how this whole thing came together from his perspective.
Oh, you want the truth on that one?
Now I'm kind of regretting it now, but
Okay. Well, so Drew and I technically have, I think, something around along the lines of 3 different projects, or 4 maybe. It depends on who's counting, I guess. But this is the one that sort of was the most believed in, I'd say. So it's the most it's made the most progress. This he's talking about Hair. Hair was a leftover song from one of the other bands that I didn't like. To be honest with you, I did not particularly like at all. And so Drew was like, "Hey, do you want to you just lay down some drums on this real quick?" So sure, I gave him 1 take of drums and sent that off. And the next day, Dave played on it. I was like, "Oh shit, maybe this is like not what I think it is. You know, maybe it can be cooler." And well, essentially, Drew can tell the story of how he got Vin involved, but then it became something that was far greater than what I had envisioned in the first place. And it was like, okay, from that point, everything kind of spiraled downhill in a good way, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah, and with getting a hold of Vin is a cool story too, because we had that demo, and it was really cool. And then
I want to hear this because I've been watching a couple of the interviews that Vin has done about how he was invited and then uninvited. And I was like, all right, well, yeah. Sorry about that, buddy. I didn't know that was going on. I would have kicked these guys' asses if I knew that was happening. No, but
and
you got to tell that, Vin. That is freaking great.
Oh,
man.
yeah, it was awesome. And so it came down, like, the next question was, who are we going to get to sing on this? Like, who's, like, you know, and the first name that popped in my head was Vinnie from Sponge. I was like, I fucking love Sponge. And for some reason, I heard his voice on it already. And then I was like, it's like none of us knew him. None of us had any connection to him. And I was like, well, we need to break down this fucking barrier. And so I tried to find an email, and I tried to see, like, you know, if I knew anybody like in Detroit or anything like that. Then I found an email on the Sponge website, and I was like, well, we'll give it a shot and see what happens. And then so I just sent the demo. I was like, hey, you know, it'd be cool to collaborate with you on something. You know, let me know what you think. So I shot it off, and immediately, right after I sent it, I was like, oh, I know why I wanted Vin, because I heard his voice on it, because it sounded just like the song Wax is Static to me, because it kind of like the same kind of idea. And I was like, fuck. So I was like, oh, don't worry about it, Vin. It's all good. You know, I apologize. I don't mean to waste your time. You know, it's just, you know, I was like, oh, man, okay. So, but then he sent it back. He was like, dude, just send me the song anyway. I don't care. And then, and it was funny too, because I removed it from Dropbox because I don't want to embarrass myself, because it's you know, I was like, okay, you know, maybe he didn't hear it yet, so I don't look like an idiot. And then, then he sent me back, man, just send a song. And I was like, all right. So I sent it. Then like a day or two later, he sent back, and I saw the file. He was like, it just said Hair, and I was like, oh man, it's like for some reason, like instantly, I was like, I wonder if this is going to be just like a song making fun of Bang Tango or something like that, because they were like a hair metal band. I was like, I don't know what to expect here. And then I played it, and I fell in love with it. And it's probably still my favorite track, just because of the sentimental value of it being the first one, and then the 4 of us collaborating on something. And I'm sure Mike will be back in a second.
Yeah.
So I had to restart. But yeah. So then I just. Man, I remember I listened to it like a bajillion times. I was like, "Holy shit, this sounds fucking great!" Like, it was just true creative satisfaction for sure. And then then we're like, "Hey, Vin," just like with Dave, it's like, "Hey, want to play on more?" And I was like, "Hey, Vin, want to see if we could do another one?" Then we sent him a Dropbox full of 30 tunes, and it's like 30 instrumental kind of demos and different stages of being done and all that. And it was, I tell you, it was fascinating with what he chose and what he didn't choose, you know? And I thought that was the coolest thing, because there's a song called Masquerade, and the music for it, it's almost structured like a Killing Joke song, where it's just the same chord progression. There's only like 2 chord progressions just over and over, and then it just kind of ends, you know? And he took it even just the demo, like what he did with it, like he added programming. It was just a guitar track. He added programming drums. He structured it, and he added these amazing guitar parts. And of course he sang to it and wrote to it. And it just kind of grew from there. And he did that with like every piece of music we handed to him. And so that was
certainly so. Like you said, Drew, there's so many songs. What I applaud all you guys for is not being pigeonholed, into one particular bag. That's why I think the record is so cool. I just want to interject that because nobody was looking to get pigeonholed. Nothing was off the table, which I certainly thank you all. I appreciate everybody's willingness to do that.
Oh, dude, yeah, man. I mean, moving forward, that'd be the case too. You do what you feel, man. That's
why we're on heavymetaltelevision.net talking about a record that's not very metal at all. As most people would probably expect, So
yeah. And if you think about it, like a lot of the music kind of goes a little bit all over the place too, because some of it's a little punky, and so there's a couple of cool thrash moments, and some's man, you think track by track, and it's cohesive but different too.
It's kind of the charm of the record is that you really can't, especially first listen, if you go in with any kind of preconceived notion, you're blown out of the water by track 2 because it does jump around a lot, and it showcases a lot of different sides. It's almost like it sort of showcases what everybody's sort of been known for without being a copy of any of it. It really does find its own roots, I guess, and grows from it. It's a cool listen.
Well, I tell you, we're all fans of Sponge. Spoiler alert. In fact, I remember in the 90s, I remember we were talking about that when we did the press release, because, the 90s was this whole age of reinvention, at least in the heavy metal world, first with, the Seattle sound landing in, and then all of a sudden it was kind of new metal came in, Korn to Godsmack to Disturbed and everything that came after that. And then kind of right in the center of that at radio, especially here in Phoenix, we've got KUPD was, certainly one of the big taste makers, and I remember, on the list was always Sponge, was always there, and was a band we liked, was like, just, it had that cool sound with Plow, was just like this go-to benchmark of what was happening. And, I think in order for a lot of us to survive, we sort of reinvented our sounds a little bit around that to survive the 90s, so that was always in the mix, so it's been great making a record with you, Vinnie, to kind of an unlikely, mix of people here. And, and again, it was fun. I know Mike's not on here right now, but to have him produce the record, he had a really good vision of what this thing should sound like, and really to kind of find the center of it, because there's a lot of these sort of tentacles that go off in a lot of different directions with this one, but to pull it together and you need command central, on a record like this, and especially when we're not all, right down the street from each other, to get in a room and kind of figure that out. That's probably one of the bigger challenges in making these records these days. It's great we can do them, that we can live in, different cities and make a record like this, but you've got to have someone in the middle who really pulls it together and says, yes, this is acceptable, no, we're not doing that, and kind of a musical director as well as a producer. So Mike,
that was Mike for sure. And Mike's he's starting his router right now. He's just having some technical issues, so he'll be back momentarily. But,
he's great at producing. StreamYard not so much, but producing he's awesome. And drumming, I tell you what, he is one of the truly respected drummers. I mean, a lot of his stuff that he does, he's this hardcore like death metal records, and
oh, man, it's ridiculous.
So for him to make a record like this that actually has like a really clean singer and like non-distortion guitars is like really out of the box for him, so which is fun.
And I love seeing him in that situation too, because I love people coming out of their comfort zones a bit. To him playing like a technical death metal record, I think is what he recorded before recording the Lucid songs to recording something like this. You know, it's so cool to hear him in that light, and like with the like Vinnie singing on something like the song "Damned," you know, which I think is so cool, because it's like it's pretty, it's a heavy tune, and it gets thrashy for a minute as well, and you know, I personally, I never heard Vin like that before, and I thought it was the coolest thing, you know.
Sure. Now, Vin, I'll throw this to you, because we're talking a lot about Sponge, and it almost is coming off like Sponge isn't around anymore. Sponge is very much alive, right? I mean, you just put out an album, what, 2 months ago?
We did, yeah. Record's called Laboratorium, and the record's out on Cleopatra Records. And certainly, like a lot of bands these days, you want to release a record. However, you know, we want to write songs, you know, and releasing a record is just something else that kind of helps us get out there and play the shows. And that's kind of like what we've been about for the last 20-something years. You know, after, you know, the first couple records, we're still out there releasing records and doing shows. So, yeah, it's some of those years were like the Mickey Rourke movie, The Wrestler, but these days, not so bad.
And Lavatorium is kick-ass, by the way, man. It's you know, it's like, to me, there's, you know, Ronnie Pinata, Wax Ecstatic, and Lavatorium. Those are my three, and everything else, all the other Sponge albums too. The Man, the Beer Sessions, you know, and Stop the Bleeding. Oh, dude, I'm a fan, man. You know, so it's
like bands that formed in the 80s. It was all about surviving the 90s, but for Sponge, who were around in the 90s, it was all about surviving the 2000s. We all have that decade we have to survive to get through it.
Without a doubt, man. You brought up some of the bands you brought up, David, and radio made a seismic shift towards the end of the 90s and, you know, to the top of 2000, and it really just kind of like pushed Sponge, you know, away from radio at that point. But it's like that was the era of the 2000s. We had to survive that, man. You know, the next decade, the next 12, 13 years were weird, man. You know what I mean? But those were dark days, and things are better now.
Definitely. Now, David, I'll throw this one to you. You've done the new band thing a couple of times. You obviously launched F5 at one point. You had Temple of Brutality, and these were all, you know, you starting over completely, and now obviously the Lucid starting over completely. Do you like the process of building something new, or is it just kind of the necessary evil for somebody like yourself that's a creative guy that is not going to just say, well, I've made my money, fuck it, I'm out?
Yes. yes to all the above. I mean, it is that, you know, I put bands together since I picked up the bass at age 11. I think I put my first band together at age 12, you know, and here I am all these years later doing the same thing. I think I only joined one band. There's one band when I was living in Minnesota, my senior year of high school. My band broke up, and so I joined a band out of Iowa that you know, filled ballrooms and played a lot of like high school proms and stuff like that. I'm not much of a joiner. I'm more of a putter together kind of guy, you know. And it's just kind of been like that my whole life. And, you know, I'm lucky that people call me to be invited to the party, you know, to put things together like this. And I like the excitement of it, you know, to be, you know, a foundational cornerstone of putting things together. And you're right. During the 2000s, I had a bunch of different stuff, like you said, F5, Temple of Brutality. I played on a Killing Machine record, and, you know, played with Soulfly and stuff. And that was fun. You know, Soulfly, you know, with Max is great. You know, that was, like Mark Rizzo said, that was probably like the most casual metal gig ever, because metal is usually pretty, it's all very kind of precise, and it's this machine gun precision. And Soulfly was more like, you know, reggae metal. It was just this chill, you know, hang, you know, it was like a hang, you know, and Max, of course, wrote, you know, everything. So it was easy to just come in and just kind of add my flavor to it. But, you know, even in the last, I mean, I had the best pandemic ever. I mean, it was the most creative pandemic I've ever been in. It's the only pandemic I've been in, thank God. But it was, I got to be honest with you. I mean, it was, I did a lot. I mean, it's like, you know, the last few years, I mean, it's like done 4 records, 2 books, and a movie. So it's been a really creative season for me, to be honest with you. And you know, now to you know, to have, you know, some, you know, these records, you know, kind of I always keep a couple cards up your sleeve. You know, I've learned that in our business, you know, that it's, and in fact, you know, we set the intention of this to release here in October. And as we're in August kind of going, okay, you know, let's ramp up to start dropping some singles and kind of prepping this and laying it out. You know, we stayed on schedule as planned and just started putting the singles out and just start running some stuff up the flagpole. And you know, we used a bit of a traditional kind of music industry model of let's start dropping a single and then, you know, but it's just a timeline. You know, I guess the old days, right? The 90s, back in the old days, you know, like you put something out 6 weeks ahead and then you drop something the day of the release. And then you've got a couple more after that, you know, because usually you drop a record and it's kind of got a 90-day window and then it's done and it's over and, you know, onto something else. So, you know, what this was kind of fun, you know, Drew has had good instincts on this one, Drew and Mike, obviously, to sort of drop something about 6 weeks out and then a couple weeks later and then a couple weeks later. And, you know, because of, you know, things happen more now with this stuff, you know, across, you know, the internet as opposed to traditional radio. You know, kind of, you know, like MTV or something, you know, like it would be in the old days, you know, now we can, you know, we kind of took a different path. We didn't focus so much on the visual of it as just putting the audio out. And
this is just phase 1.
Yeah. So it's kind of a different, you know, it's kind of fun to just have the luxury of, you know, doing things a little bit differently, you know, because usually like, bang, here's our new band, here's a new record, and here's the video, and the guys are jamming, and it's all this stuff. And you sort of inundate everybody, you sort of this full frontal assault. And by the time, you know, the record's out for a month or so, you're like, oh my God, I'm tuning out, like enough already, you know. And, you know, there's so much content that comes at us all the time, you know, new bands, old bands, whatever, that you do kind of, you sort of tune out a little bit, you know. So, it's you know, this is the first time anybody's seen all 4 of us together, and we're really not actually together because we're not even in the same room. So it's kind of like, you know, you sort of, you know, you kind of can create the visual of it, you know. And, you know, Drew really wanted to push the album cover out, which he did a couple weeks ago. And, you know, which has been a fun little project of ours in and of itself, you know, working on that album cover as well as the music and everything.
Alex Sarabia, the artist, he also did the poster for Dwellers too, and he did a amazing job. And that was a concept that Vin came up with the pinata, which is so cool, and it's kind of like a little like almost like an Easter egg, because you know what other album has to do with pinata? You know, it's his rotten pinata. You're the pinata guy now. But hey, Mike, can you hear us okay? Or...
Sort of. It's kind of garbled mess.
Okay. Well, okay. If there's a question for Mike, I'll just text it to Mike and just have him talk and all that.
Well, the real question for Mike is, we kind of touched on it while he was rebooting, was about his ability to pull himself into more of a rock functioning band after, you know, doing so much stuff that's much heavier. The Fear Factory and certainly Raven, and most of his career is all, you know, heavier, deathy type things. So my question is, how difficult is it to transition to playing in a band like this and be comfortable in it?
Drew says, your ability to pull yourself into more of a rock band versus death metal. Okay. I'll just talk randomly at a screen that won't respond to me, but okay.
It's like knowing me.
I don't really know what you just said, but cool. All right. So essentially, it's kind of like it's an entirely different world than anything anyone would know me from, I suppose. But there is a little known fact about me, and that is I used to always practice along to MTV when I was a kid. kind of one of the easiest ways, especially since there was a lot of, kind of like hip hop stuff going on, a lot of metronomically perfect stuff that was happening on the TV as well. So I would basically be, I guess you'd say, honing my groove along to normal music, music that has a regular song structure. It's not all blast beats and, playing a million miles an hour and doing complicated stuff. So it was generally doing this project. It felt very normal, but obviously very far away from everything I've been known for, I guess. But something that was a lot of fun, and as long as the songs are good, and as long as the energy is there, it's just kind of like play and don't think about it, and it comes out the way it does, I guess, if that makes any sense.
I can just see Mike now jamming along to that astronaut landing on the moon. Dun, da, 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 right? The theme song to the MTV.
Maybe the MTV News intro theme as well.
Yeah. I think it was only bass. There was no drums to that, right? Or was there a kick drum?
I found my own groove to that.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I would jam along to the radio. One of the first things I ever tried to play drums to was actually Typo Negative Records and Life of Agony Records. So all Sal on drums. Stuff that has a lot more groove than you would think in Fear Factory and or Malignancy and or 99% of the stuff that I record. But it was still, again, like I said, if the music's there, you can kind of find your way in it. And in this case, I had a hand in writing a bunch of it too. So it it all, I guess I have pop sensibilities in there somewhere and rock sensibilities. And, I grew up in the 90s mostly. So, it all sort of made sense.
Sure, definitely.
And I tell you, Mike was just absolutely fucking brilliant with the way he works and all that, and just knowing what should go where and how it should go and how many, just the whole thing, and he really did an incredible job as a producer, and unless Lamert did an outstanding job as mixing and mastering as well, like that, they're just a rock stars on so many different levels, and they really just knocked it out of the park, big time.
Sure.
Mike made me up my game.
That's right.
There you go.
Update you.
I know I sent him a bass track and he goes, "No, it's all wrong. Your settings are wrong. It's in the wrong gigabyte and kilohertz." I'm like, "Come on, dude. It's a bass part. What do you need?" You know what I mean? So that's why I was like, "Yeah, I think I better go to Mike's house. This is beyond
if there's anybody
beyond
else,
my pay grade here." Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like I'm David Ellefson. What are you doing?
It isn't even that. I mean, I don't go there with it. I wasn't being that dickish about it. But I was just like, you need to change this setting, and that setting is like, all right, this is meant for someone who actually knows what he's doing. So,
but hey, you know what though? It got us all together in LA.
It was great.
And we all gelled together wonderfully, and it was just it was definitely the best experience I've had. Being able to get along with everybody as friends. On top of the musician thing, that's what's most important to me. Because
that was the first time I got to discover how to use Uber Eats to get like Starbucks to the house or the studio. Right?
You're welcome.
The taco truck was awesome.
The taco truck, come on, all the good LA-isms. Yeah, I know. It's awesome.
What was it? One of us walked in on somebody taking a bath in the Whole Foods or something like that in the bathroom. I forgot. Was that? Oh, was that you, Vin? Yeah. Was that you taking the bath, or was that?
Vin's taking a bath at Whole Foods, and outside there's a taco truck. It's a whole other album cover.
Whole Food.
Nice. Well, guys, let me ask you a couple of questions that are not necessarily Lucid centric, but kind of about where you guys are at. Mike, I'll start with you since it seems like you can kind of hear me a little bit. I thought you played on what is this year's metal album of the year with Fear Factory. Phenomenal record.
Well, thank you, sir.
Is it frustrating for you right now seeing all the drama and not necessarily the drama, but the waiting. It seems like there was all these plans to do something and move forward, and then you're waiting on a singer, and now Dino's doing Soulfly. It just seems like there's a lot of waiting off of what is, regardless of Burton leaving the band. You guys put together a tremendous release, and it just seems like that would be a frustrating thing to have a tremendous release like that and not be able to move forward with it.
Well, the thing about that is kind of like, since that time, I've probably done another 35 albums. So I think to me, it's the kind of thing. The easiest way to think about it is if it's just kind of one record that you put everything you have into, and then you release it out into the world, and then you move on to the next one until things are ready. Because especially because of COVID and all that, it's been really hard to figure out kind of when things are going to happen. So I don't dwell on it too much. It's sort of like it is what it is. So I just, move forward, ignore drama as much as possible, and record more stuff and play more drums. I mean, drums, all I do is play drums. So like, and that's like my livelihood and also my passion. So it's kind of like one of those things that, like I said, if I've had records that have been in the can for like 12 years, and I'm still bugging people like, you're finally going to put your vocal on that? I mean, what's going on? So like that's kind of how it goes. But anytime when, other people are excited enough about it and things are moving forward, then it's like, cool, I can focus on that one thing again. Like at this point, if we were playing shows with Fear Factory, I had to go relearn all the songs. I mean, it's so like far away from me, if that makes any sense. So I would hear it as a fan, even though I played the drums and like wrote parts and stuff. If that makes any sense. So it's not frustrating at all, really. The waiting, there is no frustration. I'm just kind of on to the next thing until until I do Fear Factory stuff again. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Vin, I'll throw this to you. Drew made me aware of this, and I can't believe I didn't know this. He tells me you played on Kid Rock's Rock and Roll Jesus record. How did that happen?
I know I hear a question like that, and I go, how the hell did that happen? I'm not even sure. You know what? I mean, I certainly spent enough energy and time trying to learn to play drums, and certainly I'm nowhere near the drummer Mike is. Like Mike is like the proficient technician. Just Mike, you're a fabulous, absolutely fabulous drummer. However, I guess in my bag of tricks, me knowing the guys in that camp, they asked me to play on some songs. Maybe they felt that I was equipped to do some things that they wanted me to do, and I go, okay, I'll give it a shot. Maybe I work cheap. I don't know. I can't even recall getting paid. I'm kidding. They paid me with beer and cigars, but because Stephanie is Bob's drummer, and she's a wonderful drummer, but I was there at the right place, right time. They just asked me to play some stuff. So yeah, I played on the Rock and Roll Jesus track. I think there's some other stuff I played on, but I can't remember what I played on.
No question. Now, Drew, I'm going to bring you into this. You've obviously had quite a bit of success that I don't even think you expected with Dwellers, with the movie, with the production and stuff. With the overall release or the pending release of it. But in a perfect world, do you think you're going to be able to make movies as well as doing what may become a more full-time band?
The movie thing is like kind of like a fun obligation. It's like I dare myself. It's like, could you do it? I don't know. Let's see if you can do it. Like with the Bang Tango one, I have no background in filmmaking whatsoever at all. Like I met Bang Tango at a bar 10 years ago. 4 years later, a movie happened somehow, and ended up with like 400 hours of footage. had no clue how to edit it, but just kind of dove in and did it. And then after that, I vowed never ever to make a movie again.
Sure.
And then
the strangest part about that, he makes a documentary about it. Then he joins the band.
Yeah, then I joined
full well. Walks into the nightmare with his eyes wide open.
Yeah, everything that was said in the movie, like as far as like, you know, that whole camp and such, I walked right into and experienced firsthand. So it was like it kind of surreal to kind of live the movie that I made about them. I was like, oh man, it is all true. What am I doing here? And but it was fun though, man. You know, that Bang Tango thing and all that. And then I randomly started acting. I was in that Her Name Was Krista movie, and then I was just like, oh, it's, you know, it's okay. Horror movies. Okay, I like horror movies. And then I was like thinking, I was like, you know, do one of those found footage things. I'll probably do that in like a week, you know. And I was like, let's see if you can do it. So I actually had an idea I put together from. It was originally going to be a remake of the movie Chud, with the guy that wrote the original. I got a hold of him and I was like, hey, what's going on here? Because, you know, nothing ever came out since the first one. There was a sequel, but it had nothing to do with the first one. It was just only a name. And then he was like, what's your idea? I told him, like, zero budget, you know, because it's called Chud, and it'll be like, you know, I'm a huge fan of that movie, so it'll have a lot of heart, and it'll be like a reboot or whatever. And then he was like, cool. So I wrote up a thing, and then it turns out he only owned the musical rights to Chud, which shows you what kind of deals they were making for movies back in the 80s when the writer would sell the idea and all that. And he's actually writing a musical to Chud with right now, I believe. So that's kind of out of left field. But yeah, and then so that was years ago, and then early 2019, I was like I was cleaning out my desktop, and I was like, oh yeah, I got this thing. And then CHUD stands for Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers. And I was just like, you know, if I just call this thing Dwellers, I probably won't get sued. And and so I had to change the story around a bit, and I was like, let's see if we could shoot this thing. And I got a hold of James L. Edwards, who's in Her Name Is Krista. We do a bunch of stuff together and all that. And Douglas Esper, who was actually Chuck Mosley's percussionist / babysitter. And ironically, me, James, and Doug all met at Chuck's house. That's the first time we all met each other in person. And so Chuck Mosley kind of played a big part in getting Dwellers made, even after he passed, you know, because it was because of him we all kind of got together. And I always thought that was kind of cool. And then, yeah, sure enough, over like 5 non-consecutive days in 2019, she had out a movie. And then, you know, versus the 400 hours of footage I got for the Bang Tango movie, I only shot like maybe like 8 hours of this. And then then I was like, okay, cool, I shot the movie. And then I kind of let it sit. And then December of 2020, Dave's like, hey, you know, we're going to be guests at this horror convention in February. Where's that movie? And I was like, oh, shit. And then so I was like, and then so we finished it for Mad Monster in North Carolina. And I don't know how. I pretty much just tripped, fell, and made a movie. And then it ended up winning like 15 awards or something like that. So that shows you how crazy people are.
No question.
So, I don't know if that answered your question. I went off on a big tangent about Dwellers, but yeah. And I guess you can watch it on Amazon Prime as of today. So yeah. If anybody who checks it out, I apologize in advance if you think it sucks.
That's good. It's a fun movie. It's fun. David, let me come to you. Obviously, the events from earlier this year affected the direction of your career, and I'm not going to get all into that nonsense. I do, though, want to know if you feel like because of that, you're now a lot more free to explore a lot more musical ground that maybe you weren't able to do previously because you had to be focused on thrash metal and you know, you're on Megadeth's legacy and whatnot, you know, where now you can really open up and do whatever you want to do. Do you feel a freedom that you didn't have prior to everything falling the way it did?
Well, I mean, look, that's always going to be my legacy, just because I helped start that. You know, I was there at the downbeat of it, you know. So that's a different kind of entry point. But honestly, I've always been free and always been exploring. I mean, I think probably the first 20 years up until, you know, 2002, when that band officially disbanded. You know, it was all for, you know, everything was always for that one singular cause, you know, and then one day unexpectedly, that ended. And, you know, that began really, I think my kind of exploration of what does life hold next started in 2002, you know, and, you know, I didn't want to put another band together after that. I actually swore off bands. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I did one. We went to the top. I know what it takes to get there. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of just dumb luck, a lot of landing in the right place at the right time, and just a lot of really unexplainable elements that make any of that happen. And I just thought that was a once in a lifetime thing. That'll never happen again. If I get asked to join something, I'll consider that. But otherwise, you know, I think now I'm just going to make music for music's sake and just do it because I enjoy it, because I like it. And that was when the F5 thing came together about a year later. Then those guys kind of invited me over to jam with them, to be honest with you. And we hit on something and made some great music together. And I told those guys that don't ever plan on making any money in this. Like, you know, there's, you know, this is just do this for free and for fun, and just because we love making music. And I needed that, to be honest with you. I needed to just, you know, kind of get the joy back into music and playing, and just kind of connect with why I fell in love with rock and roll and playing bass and getting in a room with dudes and making music again. And, you know, and then the last 10 years or so, you know, back at the big dance and doing that. But, you know, honestly, the 2000s, you know, having that time away to just kind of reinvent and just, again, fall in love with making music again, to me, that has always been there. And I've been active, you know, I've been active making records and doing stuff these last bunch of years anyway. And I wouldn't say out of necessity, you know, because, you know, honestly, you know, I've, you know, been okay, you know, to not have to just go make music for money, but to make music for fun, which has been nice, you know. And, you know, to have the luxury to, like, yeah, let's go to LA and hang out at Mike's house for a while and make a new record has been great, you know. To work with various people around the world, you know, making music as I honestly, I just really do it for the enjoyment of it, you know. And that's been a blessing, you know, to be able to do that. And even this, you know, because I think, you know, when you're young and your back's against the wall and you don't have any other options, that's a great motivator to really lock in and kick ass. I think we all needed that when we were younger. I think now to be able to do it because we like doing it, and to maybe be a little bit more selective of the things that we do, is kind of the freedom that you're allowed, because you spent those earlier years, you know, nose to the grindstone. So, you know, for me, look, I'll always make music, you know, and to be honest with you, I don't force it. I leave a bass and some guitars and the piano and stuff out here in the house. And some days I walk by and go, yeah, I'm not in the mood for that. And I just go on and I feel no regret. And other days I'll walk in and I got this bass plugged into a little Marshall stack, and I'll just pick it up and I'll just frickin' thrash and rock out, and I'll just write stuff and I'll record it on my phone, and I'll just catalog ideas or sit around and write lyrics and just kind of keep ideas flowing, you know, because whenever I go into a session, you know, or any kind of a writing environment, I like to walk in with some stuff, you know, to have some things, and you know, so it's just fun to create for creation's sake, you know, and not because it has to be motivated from anything else. So I guess I'm kind of glad to just be right where I'm at. To be honest, I'm perfectly content and happy where I am right now. I'm not going to lie. It's perfectly fine. So I'm all good.
All good, man.
Oh, and I'm so sorry. I just remember the question you asked that I went off on a tangent for.
Okay.
No, making movies sucks. I like doing the Lucid thing.
There you go. Perfect. Well,
a quick afterthought. Yeah, by the way, movies do suck. Yeah.
He walked away to go follow back on the tape. So
yeah, exactly. That's why I had to go run out. I was like, I got to replay it really quick.
Nice. Well, guys. Obviously, the record, the Lucid, self-titled. It comes out tomorrow, on the 15th, and what are the plans going forward? I know Drew has told me there may or may not be some videos coming. There may or may not be some shows coming. So, what is it? Are you at a point yet where you can make definitive plans going forward for the end of the year and for at least some parts of 2022?
We're going to make
Touring's pretty wacky, of course, as we know. Look, some people have reached out to us for shows, so it's nice that the phone's ringing. So we've got those, and obviously our agent submitted us for a few different things as well. So really everything's next year, 2022. It's this year's kind of spoken for. It's kind of a wash at this point. So Mike's been busy doing stuff. Vin's been out working. So, it's fine. It's actually honestly, it's kind of nice to launch something and just let the music take it where it's going to go rather than have this whole kind of business strategy around it. The pandemic and COVID has sort of said you can make all the plans you want and it'll just kind of change all the plans anyway. So it's actually kind of a fun little moment to be putting an album out because we don't have to be kind of set to that standard at all. Just let it kind of roll where it's going to go.
No question. So a last question for everybody. I'll let one at a time. I'll start with Mike, and we'll just kind of go around the horn. Where's this band going to be a year from now?
Ooh.
Pass.
Pass.
That's because Mike doesn't want to invite us back to his studio in a year from now to be making another record.
Well, he'll be 65 records past this one already.
Exactly.
It's absolutely true. Man, I hope we're on to album 2 at that point. But there's already songs in the works and stuff. So I'm hoping we make some progress there. I hope we make a mark on somebody somewhere. Somebody digs this stuff, and I hope I hope we kind of have a path to go forward. Who knows? Honestly, it's so open-ended with this band, and obviously nobody's trying to jump ship or something immediately, and nobody's there's no drama at all. Everything is we all get along super well. And everything is, everything seems fun. So hopefully in a year it's fun and we're kicking ass. That's my hope.
All right. Drew?
Yeah, same thing. I just love the way it's all kind of unfolding naturally, we're not forcing anything. We're just it all started with us we put out that L logo, then we put out the song, and then it's just kind of okay, people are liking it, and I just hope people continue to like it, and the more that the people give us as far as a reaction, the more opportunities that will open up for us to get in front of some people and to show them what's up.
Perfect.
No, I don't know, but yeah, it's I think a year from now, it's we've got some ideas floating around for more tunes, and I think I'm just really excited, making movies sucks. I like the Lucid.
All right, David, go ahead.
For me, I'm going to make another movie, and
no,
Drew can come along if he wants or not.
I don't want.
It's funny. Like I said, there's the phone's ringing for stuff. Right away, people are like, "Oh my God, let's book this band." So which is cool. Look, we want to go out and do things that are, on a level that'll be self-supporting, obviously, and sustaining, but also fun and kind of put us in front of the right audience. And that I don't think us jumping in a van, and going out and playing to 20 people at the local bar, probably not on the horizon for a band like us. In fact, I can say for sure that's not on the horizon for us. But you know, it's funny. We've already been kicking around some new ideas for songs, and you know, I think it's fun. At least I've found to you know, as I think all of us here, we have several homes for musical outlets. And when you write something and come up with something, you go, you know what, this is definitely something I want to run past, you know, Vin, Mike, and Drew. Like, let me throw this over to the, you know, because this would sit well here. And you know, so it's great to have, you know, the Lucid for that very reason. And you know, it's cool that, you know, already after one record, there's already ideas floating around for probably the next album, or who knows, in this age, maybe it's just a single. You know, you can kind of do whatever you want. Now that we've sort of rolled out the first look of this, you know, with an LP, you know, it could be a single, it could be an EP, it could be whatever we want, you know, just to kind of keep the thing moving.
Sure. Vinnie?
Well, I think about how it was very natural how the first group of songs got written and recorded. You know, it was a real enjoyable experience. Certainly not planned at all. So I go, in a year from now, I could easily say, yeah, another record would be fantastic. The other thing that comes to mind is that when you say we're not going to jump in a van and play for 20 people, I would put the challenge out there to each one of us that we need to find a sponsor, and we need to do a handful of dates in a van that we're telling people we're only going to play for 20 of y'all, and that's it. Only about 20 people at a time in the audience, and the band's going to have matching suits.
$400 a ticket.
Well, now, you know, now that you put it like that, I'm in. Yeah, as long as we're wearing the suits, that's the cat. You know, I don't mind playing for 20 people. I just need to do it in the suit for sure.
We're going to get a spot. We're going to get a sponsor.
Got to up the game here, and we need a sponsor.
It'd be like a bowling alley or something.
Yeah. I mean, if Budweiser's paying $50,000 a gig, you play for one person a gig, right?
I like Vinny's approach to unpromote, like just like de-promote it, like pull it back. No, you can't have this. What? I mean, that's how we got Vin in the band. We invited him, we uninvited him, and now look, he's in the band. So that tactic works.
I couldn't take the rejection, so I had to go.
It's like a Looney Tunes thing. It's like, yeah, you want it. No, I don't. Yeah, you want it. No, I don't.
Only 100 tickets available. No, actually, we take that back. Only 20 are available. It's like, what? What do you mean we can't see this band? I like it.
Nice. Well, guys, one more time. The name of the album is The Lucid, same as the band, The Lucid. It is out on Friday, October the 15th. And guys, thanks so much for joining us here on Aftershocks and telling everybody about the new record.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks so much. It was a blast.